Okay, recording started.
Just a minute.
আমিও করছি। হ্যাঁ স্যার,
One minute.
হ্যাঁ স্যার, ঠিক আছে।
আমি ভীষণ ইকো পাচ্ছি, আমি কোনো কথা শুনতে পাচ্ছি না, ভীষণ ইকো পাচ্ছি, আমার নিজের কথা আমি শুনতে পাচ্ছি না।
ও আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, তাহলে আপনি আরেকবার জয়েন করতে পারেন তাহলে।
আমরা কিন্তু একটু বেটার পাচ্ছি।
এখন বাসবটা কি তোমরা পাচ্ছ?
না স্যার, আমরা শুনতে পাচ্ছি পরিষ্কার, আমরা তো ইকো পাচ্ছি। আপনার কথা আমরা পরিষ্কার শুনছি।
তাহলে আমার মনে হয় তোমরা এক একজন করে অডিও গুলো অফ করো, আমার মনে হয় সেই জন্য ইকো আমার হতে পারে।
হ্যাঁ 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 হ্যাঁ, আমরা অডিও অফ করি।
আচ্ছা, এর এখন ইকো বন্ধ হয়েছে, এই লাস্ট যেটা বন্ধ হলো তাতে ইকো বন্ধ হয়েছে। একটা জিনিস করো, আমি কতগুলো প্রশ্ন করবো, তাতে অভিক হাতে তুমি আমাকে সিগন্যাল দিয়ে জানিও তুমি শুনতে পাচ্ছ কিনা। ওকে, এই এক্ষুনি কিছু হলো যাতে ভীষণ ইকো হলো।
স্যার এটা সাউন্ড হলো, এটা ঠিক হয়ে যাবে, আস্তে আস্তে অনেক সময় ঠিক হয়ে যাবে। নেটওয়ার্ক কিছুর জন্যই হচ্ছে এটা। আপনাদের আমাদের এন্ডে খুব একটা প্রবলেম নেই, আমরা কিন্তু আপনাকে শুনতে পাচ্ছি পরিষ্কার।
স্যার আমাদের এন্ড থেকে যে শব্দটা যাচ্ছে প্রবাবলি ওটাতে আপনাকে ইকো, মানে আপনি ইকো শুনছেন না প্রবাবলি। আমরা মিউট করে দিলে আপনি শুনতে পাবেন।
আপনি স্যার কোনো সময় মিউট করো, আমি স্যার কিছু বলি। স্যার আপনি একটু করুন, কিছু বলুন।
কাকে আমাকে বলছো?
না স্যার,
আমি
হ্যাঁ, আপনার ভিডিও পরিষ্কার আসছে।
আমার সমস্যা হচ্ছে আমার স্লাইড গুলো মুভ করছে না।
স্লাইড মুভ করছে স্যার, এটা মানে এটা বিষয়ের জন্য আপনার কাছে বিলিতে দেখাচ্ছে, আমাদের এখানে মুভ করছে।
ওকে ওকে, তোমরা এবার মিউট করো, আই থিংক আই উইল স্টপ।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা স্যার, একটু আমাদের প্রিন্সিপাল স্যার আছেন, স্যারের সঙ্গে আর আমাদের স্টুডেন্টদের সঙ্গে আপনাকে বর্ষাবে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করিয়ে দিচ্ছেন, তারপরে আপনি আপনার ইয়েটা
শর্ট একটা ইন্ট্রোডাকশন,
হ্যাঁ
জাস্ট আ শর্ট ইন্ট্রোডাকশন।
ওকে, আসলে প্রিন্সিপাল স্যারের সঙ্গে একটু ইন্ট্রোডিউস করব, স্যারের সঙ্গে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করব।
So, good morning all. You all know today we have virtually assembled here to learn about flows in network through this webinar. On behalf of Techno India Hubli, I welcome Professor Dr. Krishnendu Mukhopadhyaya, who is from the Unit of Advanced Computing and Microelectronics Lab of Indian Statistical Institution of Kolkata. Sir, we have our principal sir here, Professor Dr. Meenalkanti sir. Sir, please, if you say some words to us.
Good morning, sir. I hope you are well in this pandemic situation. You have kindly agreed to share your views to our students and also to us. Thank you for this, for your kind cooperation. I shall thankful to Obit Chatterjee and Baso who have arranged this seminar to and disturb you for a long time. And I hope we will enjoy your session. You are a renowned person in Indian Statistical Institute. So please, I hope our students will be benefited from your lectures, video lectures. Thank you, sir. Please start.
Thank you, Professor Chakraborty.
আপনি শুরু করুন।
Okay. Hope you can see the slides. First of all, let me apologize for not being very tech savvy. So my slides are not really up to the mark, but I hope you'll bear with me. And let me see, I'm seeing it as more of a class, which rather than a seminar. So I'd like to talk about something which is extremely important in real life as well as computer algorithms research. So the problem is called flows in networks, or sometimes called network flows. The problem is formally defined like this. We have a network in which we have nodes and we have directed edges. So for example, you can see the picture here. So S, A, C, B, D, and T, these are the nodes, and directed edges. So there is an edge from S to A, S to C, A to C, and so on. You can see the directions on the edges. There are two special nodes which are called the source and the sink. The source is usually denoted by S and the sink is denoted by T. You can see S and T. Single source and single sink. Of course, there are variations of this problem in which there are multiple sources, multiple sinks, but we'll be talking about the simplest form of this problem, which is single source, single sink problem. And on every directed edge, there is a weight, which is called the capacity of the edge. So you can think of it as a practical problem. Think of this as, say, for example, this is a railway network. These are different stations, and there are lines between some points. So some stations, there are direct lines, and the capacity basically represents the capacity of the line to carry how much good it can carry. So for example, so you can see that it can carry 10 units of goods from S to A, whereas from A to C it can carry 2 units of goods. The line is probably smaller, or there are maybe just one line. And so this is basically a flow of some commodity from the source node S to the sink node T that we are concerned about. So how do we move things from source to sink? So sink is my goal. So this can be a very military problem. For example, so T is your battlefront and S is your go down. So you want to move items from source to sink. You want, or it can be, so this is your storefront at T and S is your factory. So you want to move items from S to T. And so how do we move it? Let's go a little bit further into this. So for the time being, we are assuming that capacities are integers, and we are assuming that every node has one edge, at least one edge adjacent to it, and no edge enters the source and no edge leaves the sink. So this is important in the sense that, so nothing comes into the source and nothing goes out of the sink. So basically you are trying to move from the source to the sink. The commodities are being moved from the source to the sink. So if something comes into the source, because source is not the receiving node, so nothing comes into the source and nothing goes out of the sink. So these are simple assumptions, and it can be, if in practical situation, if that is not true, there are artificial modifications that can be made so that it fits into this model. With this model, we are trying to solve the problem of the network flows. Let's see what we mean by flow. An ST flow, which is a flow from S to T, is a function f from E to R. So let's not look at the formal definition. What we mean is, we want to assign a value to every, if we go up, see in this, so this is the network we have, and we want to flow something. So we can think of, suppose I can take 8 units from S to C, from C to D, and D to T. That's one flow. But I can think of 13 units of flow, where from S to C, C to D, and D to T, I flow 8 units, and from S to A to B, and B to T, I flow another 5 units. So 8 plus 5, those 13 units are being flown from S to T. So a flow is basically, you assign values to every edge. You assign values to every edge such that, which basically represents how much is being flown along that edge, how much commodity is being transported along that edge, and that commodity, that amount cannot be more than the capacity of that edge. So you cannot flow more than what your capacity is. And the other condition is you don't want, see, if you go down, okay, so there are two conditions, which is, one is the capacity condition, in which we say that the flow in every edge is less than or equal to, so first of all it has to be positive flow, and the flow has to be less than or equal to whatever is the capacity. And the second condition is, at each intermediate node other than the source and the sink, you have to take out exactly the amount which you are bringing in. So for example, this node V in the picture, you are bringing in 4 plus 2, 6. So capacity is 4 plus 2, and the outgoing capacity is 6 plus 2 plus 2. So you can bring in 6 units, but you have the capacity to take out 10 units, but that doesn't help. So basically, a valid flow would have to bring in exactly as much. So for example, a valid flow would probably bring in 4 units and 2 units, so 6 units, and use only the 6 units of flow along the top right node. So that would be a valid flow, because amount that is coming in into V and the amount that is going out of V has to be exactly same, so that nothing is left. Hello.
স্যার শুনতে পাচ্ছি, হ্যাঁ স্যার শুনতে পাচ্ছি,
শুনতে পাচ্ছি,
হ্যাঁ।
Okay. So we don't want something left in an intermediate node. So every exact amount that comes in must go out. So what happens is, for the intermediate nodes, the amount coming in and amount going out are the same. So as you can see, F in at V is equal to, but what about the source and the sink node? The source node, because only something goes out, and for the sink node, something that comes in. Now you can see that, so for source node we cannot define the total input and the total output. Source node only has output, how much is going out, outflow, and for the sink node, inflow. If you think of it practically, since nothing is being left nothing is being left in the intermediate nodes, or nothing is being generated in the intermediate nodes, the total amount that is going out of the source node must be same as the total amount that is coming into the sink node. Given this condition, so this can be mathematically proved. I'm not proving it. It's a simple thing. You can just do the algebra and you can find out that, so total amount that is coming into the sink node is equal to the total amount that is coming out of the source node. Given that value is called the value of the flow. That is the amount that is being flown from the source node to the sink node. Okay. Now, for different, there is some noise. Okay. So amount, the total amount of the flow, value of the flow is this. We want to find out a flow for which the value of the flow is maximum. So the maximum amount that I can transfer from the source to the sink is my objective. So how do I transport the maximum amount across this network? So the most common algorithm or the method is called the Ford-Fulkerson method. Why this is called a method? See, of course, a lot of people call it Ford-Fulkerson algorithm. I prefer to call it method because what Ford and Fulkerson they found out around 1955, I think, around 1955, they a technique of given a you have a flow network, so they gave a technique to increment the flow. So they defined what is called an augmenting path. What is an augmenting path? So basically you find a if you're I am assuming that you're slightly familiar with graph theory. So and if you are looking at directed graphs, so this is from the source to the sink, you want to find a path. Now, since there are directed edges, so what we want to find is a weak path. What is a weak path? A weak path. See, there are different types of paths in directed graphs. So the most strongest path is called the strong, or which is basically direction of the edges is from the source to the sink. All the edges are directed in that sense. So if you let's go back to that example. Okay. If you look at this, see S to A to B to T, that is a strong path. Whereas if you look at S to A to B to D and then to T, if you look at B to D, there is no directed edge. But this is a weak path in which is D to B, the other direction there is an edge. So if you remove the direction of the edges, S, A, B, D, T would be a path. But with the direction, it's not exactly a path. So this is not a strong path. This is called a weak path. So S, A, B, D, T, which would be a path if you remove the directions of the edges. So so an augmenting path is a weak path in which so there are two types of edges now. In an augmenting path, this being a weak path, there are two types of edges. Edges in the right direction, these are called the forward edges, and the edges in the opposite direction, which are called the backward edges. In the forward edges, you want the flow. So now every edge has two values. One is the existing flow value, and there is a capacity value. The flow value is less than equal to capacity value. Now, if in the forward edges, we want the flow value to be strictly less than the capacity value. That means there is still some capacity, unutilized capacity in the forward edge that you can use for getting more flow. So flow is strictly less than in the forward edge, flow is strictly less than capacity. And in the backward edge, so if you look at it, what is the backward edge? Backward edge is something in which the flow is in the opposite direction. So if there is positive flow in the backward edge, what you can do is you can reduce that flow, and that would add to your flow. So basically, it's something like, so there was some flow from T to S. If you reduce that, so the value of the flow would increase. So in a weak path, if we have every forward edge with unutilized capacity, so that is capacity is strictly greater than flow, and in the backward edge, if you have positive flows, so that something that can be reduced, then we call it, if we can find such a path, we call it an augmenting path. And along this augmenting path, we can increase the flow by reducing, by incrementing the. So what we look at is, for every edge we have a value which is either for forward edge the value is the capacity minus the current flow, and for backward edges the value is the current flow. So whatever is the smallest amount along this path, whatever is the smallest amount along this path, we call it the bottleneck, and we, for the forward edges, we increment the flow by the bottleneck value, and in the backward edges we decrement the value by the bottleneck value, and that would increase the value of the total flow in the network by the bottleneck value. Let's take an augmenting path. Here is an augmenting path. So let's take an example. So 1 to 3 to 5 to 6, that is an augmenting path. So here all the edges are forward edges. So 1, 3, 5, 6, that is the flow along that. Suppose we want to send 5 units of flow along this path. Then the residual capacity, once we send 5 units of flow along this path, okay. Just a minute. Okay. So once we send 5 units of flow along this path, we say that link 3,5 is now saturated. Why is that? Because that edge has flow value exactly equal to the capacity value. Now no further flow can go along that edge. Whereas 1 to 3, there is still 5 capacities left, and 5 to 10, there is still 5 capacities left. So what we could do is, if you just don't bother about the algorithms, so if I send 5 units along 1, 3, 5, 6, so I can see that I can send another 5 units along 1, 3, 4, 6, another 5 units I can send. Or I could send, say, 1, 2, 5, 6. So there are multiple ways of sending it, and so typically these networks have hundreds of nodes, and so now that you can visualize it, sometimes it's impossible to visualize. So formally what is done is we define what is called a residual graph. So because what happens is, how do we find an augmenting path? Finding an augmenting path becomes difficult because some of the edges would be in the reverse direction, some of the edges would be in the forward direction. So which one do I take? So formally we define what is called a residual graph. So GF, so for given a flow F and a network G, the GF contains the same nodes. It's the same nodes. So we have two edges. Forward edges are the edges in which have, you can see that forward edges have flow less than capacity. In those edges, we introduce an edge. For those edges, we introduce an edge in the residual graph, which is equal to, with capacity equal to original capacity minus the flow, which is the residual capacity. So we introduce a forward edge with the residual capacity, and backward edges, which is equal to the value of the flow in the reverse direction. So for an edge UV in G with flow greater than 0, we introduce an edge which is from V to U. So the flow is from U to V, but in the residual graph we introduce an edge from V to U with capacity equal to the value of the flow. Is everything okay?
Yes, sir. শুনতে পাচ্ছি, সবাই শুনতে পাচ্ছি, সবাই শুনতে পাচ্ছো? অনেক শুনতে পাচ্ছিস?
Yes, sir, শোনা যাচ্ছে।
হ্যাঁ, it's okay.
ওকে স্যার। স্যার বোধহয় শুরুতে দেখো পেছনে শুনতে পাচ্ছেন না একটু।
একটা কিছু নয়েজ আসছে, ভীষণ নয়েজ,
ইকো সাউন্ড আসছে মাঝে মাঝে। স্যার ঠিক আছে, আপনি কন্টিনিউ করুন স্যার, এটা হবে এখন আসলে এই
সময়টা প্রবলেম আছে। হ্যাঁ,
সময়টা হবে স্যার, নেটওয়ার্ক প্রবলেম, হাই টাইম তো সকালবেলা। ঠিক আছে, হ্যাঁ।
So let's look at an example. So we have this network on the left, in which if you look at the red edges, along those edges, so 1 2 1 2 5 4 6, along that is the ST path in which the flow is equal to 7. So we flow 7 units along that.
স্যার একটা মিনিট, একটা রিকোয়েস্ট আছে। আমাদের একজন স্টুডেন্ট বলছে যে উইক পাথটা একবার একটু যদি আরেকবার বলেন।
কোনটা?
উইক পাথ, হোয়াট ইজ উইক পাথ, ওটা যদি আরেকবার একটু এক্সপ্লেইন করেন কাইন্ডলি, if it is possible.
Let us let us hold on. Noise. একটা মাইক্রোফোন কোথাও চলছে, ভীষণ আওয়াজ আসছে।
আচ্ছা, আমি স্টুডেন্টদের সবাইকে বলছি তোমরা মিউট করে রাখো সবাই প্লিজ। হ্যাঁ স্যার বলছেন উইক পাথটা স্যার একবার বলছেন।
Okay. If you look at this example on the left, so a strong path would be say 1 3 4 6. That's a strong path, because if you look at it, 1 to 3, the direction of the edge is in that direction. 3 to 4 in the same direction. 4 to 6 in the same direction. So 1 3 4 6 is a strong path. A weak path is say 1 3 4 5 6. 1 3 4 5 6 is a weak path, because while 1 3 4 1 to 3 3 to 4 are in the right direction, 4 to 5 there is no edge. On the contrary, the edge is in the reverse direction, 5 to 4. Whereas Mr. চক্রবর্তী, আপনার এটা বোধহয় মাইক্রোফোনটা বোধহয় অন থাকছে মাঝে মাঝে, সেই কারণে বোধহয় আওয়াজটা আসছে। ওকে, 1 3 5 4, if you look at 1 3 5 6, that is not a path, because 3 to 5 there is no edge either from 3 to 5 or 5 to 3. 1 3 4 5 6 is a weak path. 1 3 4 6 is a strong path. A strong path is also a weak path. A weak path is basically, if you is a path, it would be a path if you remove the direction. So instead of the directions, if you just remove the directions, that would be a path. So that's a weak path. All strong paths are also weak paths, but not necessarily a weak path is a path, a strong path. Is that clear? Unfortunately, I'm not at all accustomed with.
Sir, it is clear, sir. It is
Sir,
clear.
clear.
Please carry on.
Okay.
Actually, sir, at this moment, students are not able to respond. All are muted.
Okay. So maybe what I can do is,
স্যার উইক পাথটা যাকে যে জিজ্ঞাসা করেছিল বুঝতে পেরেছে, ও আমাদের জানিয়েছে, বুঝতে পেরেছে।
না, আমি ওকে
আচ্ছা।
আমি স্টুডেন্টদের রিকোয়েস্ট করছি, তোমাদের যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে সেই মুহূর্তে তোমরা আনমিউট করে কথা বলতে পারো, আদারওয়াইজ কিপ দ্য মাইক্রোফোন মিউট।
হ্যাঁ, তোমরা মিউট করে রাখো, প্রশ্ন থাকলে আমরা তোমাকে আনমিউট করে অ্যালাউ করব। ওকে, ঠিক আছে।
ওকে,
স্যার কন্টিনিউ।
So here is our example of a network. 1 5 4 6 is the ST path where flow F equal to 7 is pushed. 1 2, look at 1 2 5 4 6. 1 2 5 4 6, a value equal to 7 is pushed. Once that, so 1 to 2, একটা কানে ভীষণ লাগছে আমার, একটা কোনো আওয়াজ আসছে, ভীষণ কানে লাগছে। Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, আমি শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, শুনতে পাচ্ছি, পরিষ্কার শুনতে পাচ্ছি, শুনতে পাচ্ছি স্যার।
খুব শ্রীল আওয়াজ আসছে মাঝে মাঝে, শ্রীল আওয়াজ আসছে, খুব কানে লাগছে।
একটু সকলকে রিকোয়েস্ট করছি, একটু প্লিজ নিজেদেরকে মিউট করে রাখো, প্লিজ মিউট ইয়োরসেলফ।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ স্যার, আবার দেখুন তো, কন্টিনিউ।
আচ্ছা, জাস্ট একটা মিনিট, আমি কি বাংলায় বললে ওদের সুবিধা হবে? ইজ দ্যাট?
না স্যার, স্যার সেরকম কোনো ব্যাপার নেই, মানে আপনি যেটা প্রেফার করবেন, আমাদের অসুবিধা নেই, ওরা বাংলাতেও বুঝতে পারবে, বাংলাতে বললে হয়তো একটু সুবিধা হবে, কিন্তু সেটা কি পসিবল হবে আপনার পক্ষে বাংলাতে, মানে বাংলাতে বলা?
বাংলা তো বলতে পারি আমি, ঠিক আছে, ঠিক আছে, আমি চেষ্টা করি বাংলাতেই বলছি।
দেখো, হ্যাঁ, they are familiar with English.
Okay, then I'll stick to English. So what happens is
স্যার আপনার লিঙ্কটা বোধহয় শোনা যাচ্ছে না কিছু। হ্যালো, হ্যাঁ নেটওয়ার্ক ইস্যু হয়েছে স্যার, এর থেকে মনে হচ্ছে নেটওয়ার্ক ইস্যু, চলে যায়, হয়ে গেছে স্যার, ডিসকানেক্ট হয়ে গেছে। এক সেকেন্ড আমি বলছি স্যার।
Someone has raised a hand also. To everyone, if you have any question, please wait for the question answer session. Keep yourself the questions handy so that you can ask. And I think Ronit has something to say. Ronit, you have.
We will go for the question.
আমার এটা কানেক্টিং বলে এরকম করছে,
কানেক্টিং বলে দেখাচ্ছে তো, ঠিক আছে, আপনি দেখুন কানেক্ট হবে।
Ronit, if you have anything to say, please write in the chat box, because sir is not connecting at this moment. He's trying to connect.
স্যার কানেক্ট করছেন, কানেক্ট হচ্ছে স্যার। হ্যাঁ স্যার, এবার স্যার মিউট হয়ে আছে, আনমিউট করে স্যার আপনি আবার শুরু করতে পারেন। আনমিউট করে স্যার আপনাকে স্ক্রিনটা আবার শেয়ার করতে হবে। হ্যাঁ স্যার, ছবিটা এসছে, ছবিটা ভিজিবল এসছে, আপনি স্যার আপনি মিউট হয়ে আছেন হয়তো। হ্যাঁ স্যার, এবার এসছে।
হ্যাঁ, ওকে,
আচ্ছা।
So হ্যালো,
হ্যাঁ স্যার, ঠিক আছে,
একটু আনমিউট, অভিক আনমিউট করো একটু।
হ্যাঁ আমি আনমিউট করি।
Okay, right. So what we have is again, let's look at the network on the left. So this is the original networks. Then we introduce a flow of value 7 along the path marked in red. So 1 to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 4, and 4 to 6, and the value 7. So you see that capacities along the path. Every node, every edge has capacity at least 7 or more. So once we introduce that much flow, the question is, can we introduce more flow in the network? And for that, we compute the residual graph. So what happens is 1 to 2, we had, okay, on the right side, the nodes C marked as C should be, okay, it should be called node 2. So 1 to C or 1 to 2, there was a flow of 7. So in the reverse direction, we introduce, in the residual, we introduce an edge of 7, and in the forward direction, we have a residual capacity of 1. So basically what happens is, between two nodes, this is slightly, BCD should be read as 4, 5 and 2. So that's a problem, the problem of copy and paste somewhere. So what happens is, you see that the original edge, original capacity was 8, that's being split into two edges in reverse directions, which are the sum of whose weights is equal to the original capacity. So 8 is being split into 7 and 1. Similarly, 10 is being split into 7 and 3. Another 8 is being 7 and 1. And B to 4 to 6, which is now B to T, is in the reverse direction 7. So the reverse direction edges are the represent the flows, existing flows, and the forward direction edges are the unutilized capacity. The advantage of having a residual graph, now I don't have to care about whether this is a forward edge or backward edge. All I need to do is to find a path from 1 to T. So from the source to sink, if I find any path, excuse me. So if I find any path from the source to sink, that would be an augmenting path. So that's the beauty of, and you know that with directed graphs, you can find paths from source to sink simply by depth first search or breadth first search. Okay. One again, something that we talked about. So once we find a path, so for example, here the path is 1, 3, 5, 6 is the path, is an ST path. Suppose this is the residual graph. So 1, 3, 5, 6 is the residual path. Now,
স্যার আপনার ভিডিওটা অফ করে দিন, শুধু স্ক্রিনটা শেয়ার করুন, তাহলে হয়তো নেটওয়ার্ক কিছুটা কম দেন। আপনার ভিডিওটা একটু অফ করে দিন।
ওকে ওকে, কিন্তু একটা কোনো মাইক অন আছে, আবার ভীষণ স্টিল সাউন্ড আসছে। Okay, right. So what we can see is 1, 3, 5, 6 is the ST path. So once we find in the residual graph, once we find a path, so by how much value should we increment the flow? It's simple. It's called the bottleneck of that path. So whatever is the lowest weight along the path, that is the bottleneck. So here 1 to 3 weight is 10, 3 to 5 weight is 5, 5 to 6 the weight is 10. So the bottleneck is equal to 5. So we can push an additional flow of value 5 along this 1356. So this is the algorithm. If bottleneck is greater than 0, then we can increase the flow by sending the value equal to the bottleneck along the path. All we have to do is, for each edge, if the edge is a forward edge, then increase the value of the flow by the value, which is the B is the bottleneck value. So value of the flow by B. Or if it is a backward edge, then decrease the value of the flow by B. And it can be shown that it's still a valid flow. That is, there are two conditions for a flow being valid, which is at the intermediate node, the total amount coming in is equal to the total amount going out, and at the source and sink, nothing comes in in the source and nothing goes out of the sink. All these conditions are satisfied if we do this. So what the Ford-Fulkerson method does is, are you there? Am I still connected?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are connected. No problem.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what the Ford-Fulkerson method does, so that's why I don't like to call it an algorithm. Ford-Fulkerson method does is, it says if you find an ST path, well, there is an ST path in GF, simply augment the flow, value of the flow, till you cannot find any more augmenting path. Now, so this is all nice if the values of the flows or the capacities are integers to start with. So here is another example. So initially 1, 2, 5, 4, 6 is the ST path. 1, 2, follow this 1, 2, 5, 4, 6 in red. So if you and the value of the flow is 7. So if you push that amount 7, then we have the residual graph shown on the right. Is it okay? Just give me an okay, then I'll go to the next slide.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So here the 1, 2, 5, 6, 1, 2, 5, 6 is the new path. Yes, okay. See, this is a different notation which is also used. 8 by 8 means 8 out of the, so the second.
স্যার আরেকটা কোশ্চেন আছে, এই গ্রাফে বাঁদিকে গ্রাফে যেটা 4 to 6 আমরা দেখছি, আর ডান দিকে গ্রাফে ডিরেকশনটা যে চেঞ্জ হয়েছে, একজন জানতে চাইছে যে ডিরেকশনটা কিভাবে চেঞ্জ হলো।
আমি বলছি, যেটা হচ্ছে বাঁদিকের গ্রাফটায় যেটা দেখাচ্ছে সেটা হচ্ছে যে 8 out of 8, দ্যাট মিন্স সেকেন্ড যে নাম্বারটা সেটা হচ্ছে ক্যাপাসিটি, এন্ড ফার্স্ট নাম্বারটা হচ্ছে দ্য কারেন্ট ফ্লো। আর এইটা হচ্ছে after the flow is pushed in the given path, the residual is shown in the figure on the right. So 7 out of 7 is being pushed from 4 to 6. So in the residual graph, the edge is 6 to 4 only. This is the residual graph, not the original network graph on the right. This is the residual graph. You can see that 8 to 8, 8 out of 8, 1 to 2 is being pushed. So in the residual graph, there would be an edge from 2 to 1. So the residual graph is not a valid network because there are incoming edges into the source, outgoing edges from the sink. Is that okay?
It is okay, sir.
I think it's okay.
Sir, we have another question from Rajoshi Boshu, please. What is the maximum flow problem in special case of circulation problem? We ask you what is maximum flow problem.
So let's stick to this network flows. I don't know what he means by circulation problem. So this is the network flow problem, and so there is a value of, for a given flow there is a value of the flow. So we want to find a flow, the value is maximum among all possible flows. So this is an optimization problem, which is finding the maximum flow. So we want to find the maximum value of the flow as well as a flow which represents that maximum value. So on the left hand side you can see the in this graph, on the left hand side you can see the capacity as well as the current flow, and the right hand side graph is the residual graph as you construct the residual graph. So again another example here. So after so 1 2 3 4 5 6 is the ST path, 1 2 3 4 5 6. That's it. So the flow value is
স্যার আরেকটা কোশ্চেন হচ্ছে ওই 2 to 5 ডান দিকে গ্রাফের 2 to 5 ওটা দুদিকেই ডিরেকশন, এইটা মানে এই যে দুদিকে ডিরেকশন গুলো এই ব্যাপারটা যদি একটু বলেন ওদেরকে, এই যে ডান দিকে গ্রাফটা।
ওকে হ্যাঁ, তার কারণ হচ্ছে এই যে বাঁদিকের গ্রাফটায় দেখো 2 5, এবার ওকে ফার্স্ট বাঁদিকের গ্রাফটাকে ইন্টারপ্রেট করো তাহলে বুঝতে পারবে যে কোন দিকে কি থাকবে। বাঁদিকের গ্রাফে প্রত্যেকটা এজের সঙ্গে সামথিং বাই সামথিং এ বাই বি আছে। বি, the second number represents the capacity of that edge and the first number represents the current flow. So if the current flow is less than capacity, তার মানে কি দুদিকেই এজ থাকবে। দেখো 5 out of 10, 1 2 3 5 out of 10, তার মানে 1 2 3 একটা ফরওয়ার্ড ফ্লো আছে, ফরওয়ার্ড এজ আছে with because of the flow, and forward edge of 5, or acha, that's not probably a good example. Let's take 4 and 5, 2 out of 8. See, the flow is from 5 to 4 to out of a capacity of 8. What happens is now because of the flow there would be an edge from 4 to 5 in the reverse direction because of the flow in the 5 to 4. So there is an edge which is carrying 2 from 4 to 5, and the remaining capacity, which is 6, is in the forward direction from 5 to 4. যেখানে যেখানে unutilized আছে, say for example 3 to 2, there is no flow, so that remains the same 2 in the residual graph. যেখানে ফুল হয়ে যাচ্ছে, say 4 to 6 ফুল হয়ে যাচ্ছে, তার মানে it would be just a reverse flow in that direction. যে কোনো দুটো নোডের মধ্যে ফরওয়ার্ড আর ব্যাকওয়ার্ড সাম করলে টোটাল ক্যাপাসিটিটা পাওয়া যাচ্ছে। দেখো 1 3 5 5 সাম করলে 10, which is the capacity. Similarly 4 5 2 plus 6 সাম করলে 8, যেটা হ্যালো
হ্যাঁ স্যার বলুন, ঠিক আছে
বোঝা গেছে এবার কত থাকবে, কেন ওটা ব্যাকওয়ার্ড আছে কোনটা ফরওয়ার্ড যাচ্ছে কোন। সো দ্য রাইট হ্যান্ড সাইড ইজ দ্য রেসিডুয়াল গ্রাফ।
আর স্যার আরেকটা জিজ্ঞাসা করছি এটাকে উইক পাথ বলবে না স্ট্রং পাথ বলবে? এই যে টোটাল মানে যেখানে ডাবল ডিরেকশনে আছে বাই ডিরেকশনাল যেটা, সেটাকে উইক পাথ তখন কি উইক পাথ বলবে না স্ট্রং পাথ বলবে?
এইবার এই যে এই উইক পাথ আর স্ট্রং পাথের গন্ডগোলটা যাতে না হয় সেই জন্যই এই রেসিডুয়াল গ্রাফটা তৈরি করা হয়। রেসিডুয়াল গ্রাফে মানে নাও ইউ হ্যাভ টু ফাইন্ড এ পাথ, স্ট্রং পাথ, ইউ হ্যাভ টু ফাইন্ড এ স্ট্রং পাথ। তার কারণ আমি রিভার্স ডিরেকশনের যে এজ গুলো নিতাম তার জন্য করসপন্ডিং আরেকটা এজ দিয়ে দিয়েছি, উল্টো দিকে একটা এজ দিয়ে দিয়েছি। যেখানে যেখানে আমি রিভার্স ডিরেকশনে এজ নিতে পারতাম সেখানে আমি একটা রিভার্স ডিরেকশনের এজ নতুন করে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করে দিয়েছি, যাতে আমার আর ওই কোনটা ফরওয়ার্ড নেবো কোনটা ব্যাকওয়ার্ড নেবো আর ভাবতে না হয়। জাস্ট সিম্পল একটা ডাইরেক্টেড গ্রাফ আছে, I want to find a path from 1 to 6. That's it. Look at the graph on the right hand side. I want to find a path from 1 to 6. If I can find a path from 1 to 6, that would be an augmenting path. So ওই যে কনসেপ্টটা ছিল for strong path weak path, that is no longer required. সেই কারণে এই রেসিডুয়াল গ্রাফটা তৈরি করা হয়। Does it answer your question?
Yes.
I think they have got their answer. So thank you, sir. Carry on, sir. Carry on.
Okay. Now this is the current network, and which on the left side is the current network. We choose the path 1 3 5 6 is the ST path. 1 3 1 3 3 1 3 2 5 6 1 3 2 5 6, and the bottleneck is 2. So along that we can push another value of 2, and we get the right hand on the right hand side the residual graph. So here are the correctness proofs. Here are some of the lemmas. So whenever we
আবার লিঙ্কটা কেটে যাচ্ছে। স্যার জয়েন করছে, একটু ওয়েট করো তোমরা।
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes sir, yes sir.
Okay. So these are the backbone of correctness proof. Correctness proof. এইভাবে একটা অগমেন্টিং পাথ দিয়ে ফ্লোটাকে বাড়াই, ইট স্টিল রিমেইনস এ ভ্যালিড ফ্লো। আমি আর প্রমাণটা করার চেষ্টা করছি না, আমি জাস্ট বলে দিচ্ছি ইটস ভেরি ইজি টু সি it remains a valid flow. We have to check two conditions. One is at all intermediate nodes the conservation of flow is preserved, which is total incoming is equal to total outgoing. In the source node there is nothing incoming, and in the sink node there is nothing outgoing. It's easy to check that these conditions are valid. So, and the capacity is never exceeded. So this is a valid flow. If you have integer values, see at every step the value of the is at least 1. Every step we increment the amount of flow by 1 unit, and since these are all bounded numbers, there are only finite limits, so there is a maximum value of the flow. So the flow value cannot go higher than the total capacities of all the edges. So in finite times it has to stop. So for integer values, the Ford-Fulkerson method algorithm stops 3 iterations in the while loop, which is an overestimate, but still there is a bound. We are talking about this because there is a problem. So if the values are integers, so the as a matter, if the values are in rational numbers, all you have to do is multiply all values by the LCM of the denominators. So that everything becomes integer. So technically rational are the same. So even if all values are rational numbers, the algorithm works. This is, I'm talking about this specifically because unfortunately the Ford-Fulkerson method is not guaranteed to work if the capacity values are irrational.
স্যার সাউন্ড একটু প্রবলেম করছে, আরেকবার একটু যদি রিপিট করেন জায়গাটা।
হ্যালো,
হ্যাঁ হ্যালো স্যার, হ্যালো হ্যালো। হ্যাঁ
স্যার
স্যার,
জাস্ট আগের স্লাইডটা থেকে একটু রিপিট করুন স্যার প্লিজ। স্যার ক্যাপাসিটি ফ্লো ভ্যালুটা ক্যাপাসিটি থেকে বড় বেশি হতে পারবে না ওই স্লাইডটা থেকে, এর আগের স্লাইডটা।
স্যার আপনার সাউন্ড আমরা পাচ্ছি না কিন্তু এখন।
Okay, can you hear me now?
ইয়েস স্যার।
Yes, sir.
Achha, is this the one that you wanted to see?
Sir, that one there was written that flow value can't be greater than the capacity. I think.
Hold on. Okay, I believe this is the one you wanted to see.
Sir, it has not changed yet. Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir.
Okay, what happens is, so just think of integer values. First, let's consider integer values. What happens is, if the values are integers, at every step, if you find an augmenting path, you would increment the value by at least 1, because the bottleneck, if all the capacities and every value is integer, minimum value is 1. So at every step you increment it by 1. Now there is an upper bound on the value of the, which is equal to total edges out of S, because the value of the flow is equal to the total coming out of the source. So total sum of the capacity of the edges coming out of source, that is an upper bound on the value of the flow. So it cannot be more than that, or even the total edges coming into sink is also an upper bound. So at most, minimum of these two values, so at most those many iterations, if the capacities are all integers, in at most those many iterations, you come to a solution. As a matter of fact, this can be extended to, so suppose you have, instead of integers, you have rational numbers for capacities. So think of this. So basically you do a change of unit. So if the value is, suppose the values are 3 by 5, 1 by 5, 7 by 5, etc. All you have to do is change of unit by 5. Or if it is some fraction, basically you take the LCM of the denominators of all the fractional values. If you take the LCM of the denominator of all fractional values and multiply everything by the same value, the problem remains same. Basically you have changed the unit. So if that LCM is L, you multiply everything by L. So whatever value finally you get, you divide everything by L and you get the final solution. So rational values, if the capacity is all rationals, you can transform it into a problem involving integers, and hence, since the integer problem can be solved, so for rational also the problem can be solved, and you have an upper bound on the number of steps it takes for the Ford-Fulkerson method to converge. We are talking about these cases because, unfortunately, if the capacity values are irrational, then it can be shown that the problem may not, first of all, it may not converge. So every time you might still get a new augmenting path, but there is no guarantee that in finite steps you still get, you'll stop. So there is no stopping, the algorithm is not correct. And even worse than that, so first of all, it may not converge. Even if it converges, when it does not stop in finitely many iterations, even if it converges to some value, that value may not be the optimum value. So that is a problem with the Ford-Fulkerson, basic Ford-Fulkerson method. But still people talk about Ford-Fulkerson method because, first of all, it works for integers. And secondly, all the other problems are basically variations coming out of this method. So you tweak a little bit here and there, and you get a solution which is guaranteed to be correct solution. So running time is okay. We have an analysis of the running time, which is an upper bound to see. Then we come to this concept called a cut. What is a cut? So basically you partition the set of nodes into two parts, one containing the source and one containing the sink. So there are two parts, A and B in the picture, A and B. Now, so the edges can be divided into three groups. One, edges which is inside the set A, that is between two, both the, so for an edge, if both the terminal nodes are in A, so it's inside A, or it's inside B, or it can be across A and B. So it can be from A to B or B to A. Now, so start is a AB of the vertex set, so that S belongs to A and T belongs to B. The capacity of the cut, so this is a cut AB. The capacity of the cut is defined as the sum of capacities of all edges out of A. So I'm only looking at the edges which are going from A to B. So all edges only. So what is the capacity of this cut? This cut, there is an edge 10 from A to B, 6 from A to B, and 9 from A to B. The 3 and 7 which are from B to A, we simply ignore them. The capacity
স্যার সাউন্ডটা আবার আটকে গেছে।
আটকে গেছে।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, মানে আবার 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 একটু মানে ক্যাপাসিটি কাট থেকে আবার একটু বলুন।
শোনা যাচ্ছে বা?
এবার শোনা যাচ্ছে।
বলছি a cut is a partition AB of the vertex set AB. Now there are edges can be of three types. Either it's inside A or inside B, or the third type is between A and B. Now we only look at edges which are between A and B. The capacity of the cut is defined as the sum of the capacities of all the edges which are going from A to B. So in this example, A to B edges are 10, 6 and 9. So capacity of this cut is 10 plus 6 plus 9, which is 25. The other direction edge, 3 and 7, we simply ignore them. We just don't care what those values are. Is the value of the capacity of the cut clear?
I think it is clear to everybody. I think it's clear, sir. We will take question answers later. So if any doubt, they will ask later on.
Okay. Now this is an interesting problem which is which was considered. As a matter of fact, if you look at the original source of this problem, it came as a cut problem. What some people in the army were doing, they were trying to find, in a Soviet railway network, they were trying to find the minimum cut. That means a set of nodes which can be set of edges which can be cut so that all flows from S to T is stopped. So suppose here, if you want to disable all flows from A to B, you have to disable 10, 6 plus 9. So 25 value you have to disable. So they were trying to find which is the minimum value that you have to disable so that all flows from S to T is disabled. So this is basically army enemy attack, where you want to disable all flow from S to T. And so this is called the minimum cut problem. And it so happens that these two problems are equivalent. Be an ST in AB, and let be AB ST, and AB is an ST cut. Then the value of the flow is equal to F out of A minus F in of A. So if you take if you take any flow, if you take any ST flow and AB is a cut, then the total value that is going out of A minus the value that is coming into A, that is the value of the flow. Is this clear, students?
Yes. Students, if it is not clear, you can write in the question answer session. If it is not clear, I think, sir.
We have a question, sir.
Okay.
Shamanto, she asks that between A to B and B to A, we will consider that which will be greater valued. I think she was talking about that cut set.
I'm sorry.
A
The
to B and
value,
yes, sir.
yes, the value of the cut does not take into consideration anything, the capacities from B to A. You are talking about the value of the cut, you don't bother about what are the capacities of the edges from B to A. But when you are looking at a flow, it can be shown the value of the flow is equal to the total going out of A minus the total coming into A.
Okay, sir. I think it is clear.
Let's not go into if you accept this, but in this, you can notionally see that. So just think, just visualize, close your eyes, visualize you have the A and B, just A and B, the amount that is going out of A minus the amount that is, so instead of capacities, think of these as the flows. So what is the amount that is flowing across this? Is the total that is going out of A minus the total that is coming in. So instead of capacities, if you think of this as the value of flows, the total flow is equal to value going out of A minus value coming into A. Again, this requires a proof, and there is a simple proof for this. Let's not prove it, but intuitively it's easy to accept.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now, once you do that, you can immediately see that for any flow ST, F, any flow F, and any cut AB, the value of the flow is less than equal to total F out of A. Now, F out of A is the capacity of AB cut, because in the cut we don't consider the value. F out of A is less than equal to cut of A, cut AB cut. Can you see that? Just think, value of flow is less than equal to F out of A is less than equal to cut of AB.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That means for any flow F and any cut AB, the value of the flow is less than equal to the capacity of the cut. The value of the flow is less than equal to value of any flow is less than equal to capacity of any cut. And that brings us to the very famous and most popular result. Okay, so this is the proof that value of the flow is less than equal to capacity of the cut. Value of the flow is equal to F out of A minus F in of A, which is less than or equal to F out of A. Now, F out of A is equal to sum of the edges out of A of the flows. Now, every flow is less than equal to capacity, so which is equal to sum of the capacities out of A, and this sum is the capacity of the cut AB. So, value of every flow is less than equal to capacity of every cut. This theorem. If F is an ST flow such that there is no ST path, then there is an ST cut AB for which value of flow is equal to capacity of the cut. So it basically says, let's not go into the proof. What we will tell is that if there is no augmenting path, across ST, then you can find a cut such that the value of the flow is equal to the capacity of that cut. The idea is very simple. Suppose S to T there is no augmenting path. You simply look at all the vertices. For A, you take all the vertices up to which there is an augmenting path. If you choose A as the set of vertices for which there is an augmenting path, obviously because there is no augmenting path from S to T, so T is there in B, in the remaining vertices are B, so S is in A and T is in B. You can show that the value of the flow is equal to the capacity of this cut. Now, since go back, value of every flow is less than equal to capacity of every cut. So if we have a particular flow which is equal to capacity of a particular cut, then you know that this flow has maximum value and this capacity has minimum capacity. So that brings us to here. Maximum value of a flow is equal to minimum value capacity of a cut. Max flow equals min cut. Is that okay, students?
I think it's okay. I think it's okay, sir.
I think I'll try to wrap it up now because there are other things that I wanted to do, but unfortunately, I think it wasn't very successful.
No, it's okay, sir. It's okay. You can continue. No problem. You can continue.
So this is the proof that max flow is equal. So if you define like that, that was the. So the flow F returned by the Ford-Fulkerson algorithm. So if it stops, it basically if it stops when there is no, if there is, when the Ford-Fulkerson algorithm stops, if it stops, then that gives you the maximum flow. The problem with Ford-Fulkerson method is for irrational capacities, there is no guarantee that it would stop. So I'll just give you a preview of this example. This is the preview of the example. So with this example, you can actually choose ST paths, augmenting paths in a particular fashion, so that you would go on choosing, but it would not touch, and if it would converge to a value, but that value is not the optimum value. Go ahead. Just briefly, just a little bit of brief overview of Denick's algorithm, which is a variation of this algorithm. It guarantees that in finitely many steps, the algorithm stops and gives the correct answer. Are the students okay?
স্যার আপনার ভয়েসটা আবার একটু ব্রেক করছে হালকা হালকা। হ্যাঁ,
I should stop here. I just mentioned that there are other algorithms.
Okay.
We are already past time. What I'll do is I'll spare something for the instead of teaching something new, I'll spare time for answering questions.
Okay. So
Yes,
that
sir.
will be better. That will be better.
Someone has raised a hand. I just allow her to talk. Just give me a couple of minutes. I think that
না, ও আগে রেজান করেছিল, এখনো রেজান নেই, দেখতে পাচ্ছি না।
Okay, fine.
হ্যাঁ, আমরা স্টুডেন্টসকে বলি, বরং তোমাদের যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে তোমরা রেজান করো, আমরা স্যার অ্যান্সার দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করছেন তোমাদেরকে।
If you have some question, please raise your hands. You will be allowed to talk and you ask a question. Anyone
like অনন্যা, যেমন অনন্যা, তোমার যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে তুমি করতে পারো, তুমি বলছিলে। আর যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে এভরিবাডি বেসিক্যালি কোশ্চেন করতে পারো, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। যদি কোনো জায়গায় তোমাদের বুঝতে অসুবিধা হয়ে থাকে সেই জায়গার থেকেও বলতে পারো, স্যার একবার তাহলে তোমাদেরকে বুঝিয়ে দেবেন ব্যাপারটা। If anybody has any doubt, any question, you can ask. Just raise your hand. Yeah.
Do you have any questions, students?
না, এখনো বোধহয় কোনো প্রশ্ন নেই।
I mean, I'll just finish a little bit of again.
Exactly.
I'm really
We understand.
আমি স্লাইড গুলো, but I will recommend one particular site, a particular professor who has got a very fine set of lectures on this network flows. Professor Tim Ravgarden. So he has got video lectures. So if you want, you can go to his website and listen to those lectures. They are very good lectures in details. Actually, he was a professor in Stanford University, but very good lectures. So you can go to Tim Ravgarden's page and look at his video lectures. I would strongly recommend that you do that.
Definitely, we'll
Name of that?
Just a minute.
Tim Ravgarden.
Tim Roughgarden.
Okay.
Now, one question from my side is, what the major application area in this flow of network?
Of course, commodity flow. The biggest application is flow of commodities. So you have. Can you mute some of the other microphones? Again, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Okay. Okay. So one of the major applications is, and the natural application is, so you want to, so you have this, S is the factory. So you are producing something and you want to send it to a particular place. So where your distribution takes place. So there are multiple paths and multiple ways of transporting them. So how do you take it? So what is the maximum amount that you can send? So that is natural, and see, there are variations of extensions of this problem. So there will be multiple sources, multiple destinations, multiple commodities. So this is the bare minimum, absolutely level 0 introduction of this problem. So this is an optimization problem. Other than that, I can share you. See, here are some complex problems which can be mapped into applications of network flows. So bipartite. So you have a bipartite graph and you want to maximum matching. You can map it into a network flow problem. You can construct a network and find maximum flow in that network, and that would give you the bipartite matching. The edge connectivity. Compute the smallest subset of edges whose removal disconnects the graph. That we solved as a network flow problem. Row sum, column sum satisfaction problem. So given two vectors, does there exist a matrix whose row sum are the elements of R and the column sum are the element of S? Again, this can be mapped into network flow problem. So there are a very large number of problems which are apparently not even related to network flows. They can be mapped into a network flow problem, and then you solve the network flow and you get the original problem. So this is a very versatile tool which can be used for solving many problems. other than the very obvious commodity flow problem.
স্যার প্রিন্সিপাল স্যারকে বলছি স্যার আপনি আনমিউট করুন, মিউট হয়ে আছেন স্যার।
স্যার এখনো শোনা যাচ্ছে না।
হ্যাঁ সরি স্যার, স্যার মিউট হয়ে আছেন অ্যাকচুয়ালি। হ্যাঁ স্যার, এবার বলেন স্যার।
You have started your lectures through railway network. Is there any probability of collision for in this flow of network?
Okay. The problem is here we are looking at abstraction of the problem. So along an edge, how the flow actually takes place is something which is basically at the lower level of the network that it is decided, and the collision can take place only at the low. How you actually transport the objects from a node A to B is a lower level implementation, and the collision can take place there, but at the upper level we are not bothered about the collision.
ওকে স্যার, আমাদের একজন পার্টিসিপেন্ট আছেন অভিজিৎ ঘোষ, ওর কিছু কোশ্চেন আছে। অভিজিৎ, ইউ আর অ্যালাউড টু আস্ক কোশ্চেন টু স্যার। অভিজিৎ, ইউ আর অ্যালাউড, you unmute yourself. Abhijit Ghosh, you unmute yourself. You can ask.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Is this algorithm satisfactory for satisfaction problem? Here it is written that row sum, column sum, and satisfaction problems.
Row sum, column sum, satisfaction problem. That is the name of one problem. So basically, it's something like the matrix is. So think of this: you are given row sums and the column sums of a matrix. Now the question is there a matrix which has this as the row sum and the column sum? So that is called the row sum, column sum, satisfaction problem.
Okay.
The whole matrix is not given to you. The row sum and the column sum is given to you. Now you ask back the question: is there any matrix which has this as the row sum and R as the row sum and S as the column sum?
Okay.
Does there exist such a matrix? So that is called the row sum, column sum, satisfaction problem.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So you have got your answer.
Is there anyone who has any question? Participants, students, do you have any questions?
Students, if you have any more question, you can ask. Okay, so I think
No one is here.
yeah, I think there is no other question.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Principal
you,
sir.
sir.
Principal sir को बोलिए sir अपनी
Try to wrap up for this, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you.
Many thanks for your nice lectures, and you have shown our interest on this flow of network. I hope the students have got interested also in these lectures, and if there is any scope for future lecture, I will surely call you in our college. Thank you for your cooperation, kind cooperation in this pandemic. Thank you, Vasudhata, and
sir.
all other faculty members. Sir, for you, for your many thanks.
Thank you, sir.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Krishnendu sir. Sir, thank you very much. আমরা আপনাকে মানে উইল ডেফিনেটলি আমরা চাইবো যে আপনি একদিন কলেজে আসুন আমাদের। কলেজে হলে আমরা আপনি একদিন কলেজে আসেন, আমরা তাহলে মানে এই যে মানে অনলাইনে যে মাঝে মাঝে হচ্ছে সেই ব্যাপারটা আমরা চাই কলেজে আসুন, আপনার ক্লাস না পেলে আমাদের স্টুডেন্টরা বুঝতে পারে।
না আমি একটু ওল্ড ফ্যাশন, এটা বোর্ডে পড়াতে পারলে ভালো হতো।
স্যার এটা সবাই এটাই অ্যাকচুয়াল ফ্যাক্ট। অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমাদের স্টুডেন্টরাও তাই বলে যে ওরা বোর্ডই প্রেফার করে, ওরাও তাই বলে। তো আমরা চাইবো যে আপনি একদিন কলেজে আসুন, আমাদেরকে প্লিজ একটা দিন আপনি আসুন কলেজ ওপেন হলে। ওকে,
একটু যদি সময় বের করেন, আপনি খুব বিজি জানি আমরা।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ প্রিন্সিপাল স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ এভরিবডি, থ্যাংক ইউ। ওকে।